KPC.
It's interesting.
They're all doing, they're TIG welding their chassis 100%, and they're using different filler rods because of what that joint's going to do. And it's really interesting to, you start thinking about those things where, most of us that are, well, I label myself as a dumb redneck from Oregon. I'll just take whatever wires in the MIG welder and zap the thing and call it good. But when you get on this level, you've got to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
You do. I mean, when we first started buying Masterbuilt cars, we went back there, and you walk up to the car, and the first chassis I looked at is like, there was different kinds of metal in the whole car. And if anybody's ever talked to Keith Masters, he's got an engineering degree, and he's like an uber smart guy. He's not an idiot, and he'll talk right over the top of your head. And he was a firm believer, like, right here, I don't need this. I don't need chromoly right here. I just need mild steel right here. And so their cars were made out of a whole lot of different types of metal, but he knew what he wanted and where he wanted it.
That's interesting to try to get the maximum performance out of a chassis and how you put them together. I know a lot of guys back in the old days grabbed a stick of 4130 and.
I lost you guys.
Sorry. That's interesting to listen to you talk about what Keith Masters was doing, because back in the old days, even when I was with Tony Whitney, we'd go by 4130 and we'd build the chassis. The front to back, top to bottom was the same metal.
Yeah, exactly.
Now today,
well, and you got to think about where the metal comes from too. I mean, some of like Masters built cars. I remember him telling me, he goes, "Yeah," he says, "we had a run of cars that all of our chromoly came from Russia." He goes, "And if I could buy a rail car full of that, I'd buy a whole rail car full of it, because our cars were super consistent with that metal."
Wow.
So, I mean,
well, and
I talked to Chip Vineyard here a while back, and his cars, he's building them out of chromoly, and he builds them out of out of Docal. He was building them out of chromoly, but he was getting cheap chromoly, so he wanted to start seeing the standards, standard sheets on them. And he says, "Look, man, this stuff was coming from China." So he told him, "No way. If he builds a car out of chromoly, he wants German chromoly. And if he builds it out of Docal, it's just that, he just wants Docal." But he's building most of his cars out of Docal.
Now, see, I've had experience with the chromoly from China, and all I remember is getting a lot of sparks and impurities coming out of it. That was very inconsistent, the properties of it, actually. I had a lot of problems with that.
I can't even hear you, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said I had experienced myself. I was in China building up some I have to go here?
Yes.
I'm so sorry. I had experienced myself with building chromoly from China. I had it, and every time I tried to TIG weld it would just spark, and I'd get just so many impurities coming out of it. It was just amazing, the different countries and what their standards are for the metals.
Very true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I've got a manufacturer who sources their raw metals from somewhere in Eastern Europe, and he won't even tell me where, because he can get a better raw product from Eastern Europe than he can anywhere else.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, Mike, I know you're at a birthday party for your wife's grandmother?
Yeah, we just went out to dinner with her. She turned 95 today, so.
That is awesome. 95 years. Well, you can tell her we all said happy birthday, and I want to say thanks for taking your time to call in on our first show of the 2018 season. We appreciate you and your expertise or your knowledge that you could share with us, and we're looking forward to maybe talking with you again here in the near future.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Have a good night.
Mike.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
A lot of information from Mike, and that's kind of why I had Mike call in, was because his mind when it comes to building a race car.
And that's the thing about Mike too, is
I think he's every bit as good as anybody else in the country as a manufacturer.
And Mike has done a lot of research on Docal, and knowing that we were going to have Mike in our wheelhouse for the Docal side of it, I focused most of my stuff on the Pro Moly or Chromoly
right,
side.
and that's why that discussion was put together the way that it was.
It's perfect, that it worked out that way.
And the interesting thing that I thought was both of you guys working with cars that are produced from different metals.
And Dom, too, with the drag side,
Right.
and the road racing stuff.
See, all I've ever worked with, and I'm not going to lie to you, I haven't built a race car in a long, long time, and it was just 4130.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was just, that was the standard back then. It was what everybody used around here, and we built some winning race cars with Whitney Racing. But listening to you guys with the Longhorns and the Pro Molly and Mike with the Dole Call and what and why and the benefits, and it's interesting to listen just about the technology of the metal that these cars are being constructed with. And how some, like you guys, when I say you guys, I don't mean you specifically. I mean the people that you work with, Longhorn and the manufacturers back there in North Carolina, how they are more pro Molly versus Dole Call. And then out here, you've got Mike on the West Coast doing something a little bit different and working with.
And that's interesting because I've done, research, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing and hearing about Dole Call, Pro Molly is coming from people that used to be in NASCAR and affiliated with, Roush and Ganassi, and guys that use mild steel in their cages. They've gone Chrome Molly on their dirt cars. They're not going to Dole Call. There's all these different factors and reasons.
Well, I think with mild steel, and you start talking NASCAR cars, you want a little stiffer race car, whereas, you might want a little more flex with the Chrome Molly on a dirt car. That can be one valid, well, you know what I mean? The argument can be.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now, and like you said, and Mike made that, they're building late model chassis stiffer now to make the chassis more consistent and make the suspension do the work.
And that's something we talked about, how times have changed from your days with Whitney and Jeffries and all those.
Irely,
the chassis was doing the work. Now we're making the suspension do the work, and that's one thing that I personally noticed between Joey's first X Factor or his original X Factor car and his new VS1 car.
You and I spent a lot of time looking at that car at the Mile to Wild swap meet, and the whole time we were looking at that car, our eyebrows were raised.
Well, and we were sitting there talking and having a very technical discussion about it, and one thing that struck me, and even my experience working on the GRTs, that we had Matthew had the 05 GRT, he got into the 14 or 15 model year GRT, and then even to my 17 model year Longhorns that I've got in my shop, how the suspension points are spaced.
Right.
Keep getting shorter and shorter and shorter and closer to how asphalt suspension points are. Talking with Doug Davenport when he was running asphalt for those couple of years, he was, you start talking a bar angle change in a dirt car, you're moving it anywhere from 3/4 to 1.25 inches and that's one hole.
Right.
Asphalt car, you're moving at a 32nd to a 16th.
Yeah.
And if you go much farther than that, you're going to be
it's a big difference.
Up that one crick without that one paddle.
Right.
I mean, it's things like that. I couldn't have done some of this research without having some of the sources I do in North Carolina. Eric Molyneux and Mike Talkett with SRI and Stock Car Steel and Aluminum back there. They sent me in the right direction to find this information. I can't thank them enough for getting us the information.
No, and that's what I liked was because we didn't have a Dole Call worksheet in front of us like we have for the. We've got a comparison of the two.
Yeah.
Which I think honestly I think both metals I see a lot of good in both of them. I don't know if I really see what I would call a weakness.
I agree.
In either one of them, but it's much like
you're comparing two metals who have characteristics that are very close to each other, but there are some significant differences. And the one thing that we haven't touched on, and Dom touched on it a little bit, and so did Mike, was the brittleness around the welds.
Right.
And Lincoln Electric, who makes welders
that
we all use at our home shops.
They're in every shop around the country. Yep.
They actually chimed in on this whole topic, and they have a dedicated 1-week seminar for motorsports fabrication, dealing with how to weld in the motorsports industry because of these, the metallurgical changes that happen when you apply that amount of heat to these metals and getting things set up right. And it's something that has to be considered. But, wow.
I know.
What time is it?
It's 9:12. We got plenty of time left, but we're going to start wrapping things up here.
You want to go
It's been an interesting. I'm really glad we did this tech segment on this stuff to start the year because I think it'll get a lot of guys thinking. I think it'll spur a discussion, and I think a lot of people are going to be watching that X Factor VS1 given the fact that now they know that it's a
dual call car.
a dual call car.
Well, and there's rumors out there, and I can't remember if it's I couldn't find. I shouldn't say I couldn't remember. Couldn't find. There's a lot of rumors flying around that the XR1s are a full dual call car now.
I have heard that.
I haven't been able to
But then I've
confirm
heard some other stuff about that type of race car. I'm not going to speculate. If I don't know for sure, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
But I've heard exactly what you said. Then I've heard some other stuff about that. I'm not even going to touch that. That's a whole other discussion that I'm not willing to get into right now. But I think all in all, tonight's show has been a good one. I want to thank both of you guys for being here and doing what we do. We miss Warren. We're going to wish him the best of luck. I want to thank Mike Miller, X Factor, the VS1, for calling in and talking tech with us, and everybody out there listening on the Swears Trucking chat line. I want to thank our sponsors, Swears Trucking. I want to thank Amco, Bar S Motorsports. I want to thank
Stumbling J
Livestock,
Archer Floor Covering, James Gang Pizza.
We've got
the official pizza of
absolutely. We've got Northwest Trucking Academy,
Jetstream Aqua Massage.
Are we forgetting anybody? I mean, we can't do this
Sandy, Tara.
We can't do it without them. Yeah, especially them for their tolerance.
Dom's mom. Hi, Dom's mom. I know I saw you in there earlier on the Facebook or on the chat line, but
she's always listening to us. She's proud of her baby boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. Her handsome baby boy.
But again, I want to thank everybody for listening. It's going to be a great year, 2018. We're going to bring some new stuff to Northwest Dirt News, and I say there's going to be a lot of new stuff we're going to be doing.
So, are you going to tell me the answer to my question from earlier in the show?
Which was?
Who's our guest next week that you have told Dom, but you're not telling me?
I don't know. Heard it.
I don't know if I should let this out of the bag or surprise everybody.
Well, I need.
What? Here's what we're gonna do. I don't want any surprises. And I want everybody to.
I kind of need to know if I need to wear Kevlar next week or not.
Probably a good idea, because our first in-studio guest.
Please tell me it's not Doc.
No, I don't know if we'd allow Doc in the studio.
Okay.
He can be a call-in guest. Doc's Photo is another one of our sponsors here on Northwest Dirt News. We can't forget. I wanted to start the year off right. And I wanted to start the year off with information and getting things out there that is right, correct. So our first in-studio guest of 2018, and I want everybody to talk about this. I'm going to put it out there because I think it'll get everybody excited. We are going to welcome into the Amco Total Car Care studio Mr. Jerry Schramm.
Holy cow!
So we're going to have Jerry in, and we're going to, any rumors that are out there, we're going to dispel them. We're going to get everything right. We're going to get everybody on the same page. That is why when we started talking about the IMCA stock car, I said we're not going to touch that tonight. We're going to talk about that later. Something I think we'll probably talk with Jerry on the show next week. And, I was surprised. I know Jerry's got a very, very busy schedule, but I texted him this last, couple days ago and said, hey, what do you think about coming in the studio and talking racing in 2018, and we can kill some rumors and maybe get everybody on the right page and get everybody excited and get a positive start to 2018. He says, tell me when and where.
So here's the thing, we can put it out there, all our listeners that are listening out there. If you have questions for Jerry, questions about the track, questions about the class, rule questions, you can remain anonymous. You can put your name to it. It's completely up to you. Send us an email at...
It's nwdirtnews@yahoo.
Or send us a message on Facebook. Give us a call.
On Moxie Media and Promotions Facebook page.
Give us a call, 541-862-3478. And that spells dirt.
That spells dirt.
And so just... You know what? You might think of something midweek. Just jot it down. Send it to us.
Well, that's the thing about it. Jerry, is open to answering the questions. And I think that's a great thing given the position he's in as the track owner, and who better to get the answers from than the guy that writes the rules and makes the decisions. And I think it'll be a good thing. I know he's excited. It'll be a good way to open 2018. So Stick around, guys. Here we go. The Swears Trucking chat line just blew up. Roger, I'll let you address that with Jerry. Roger Snyder says, start from the back. That is a conversation you can have.
We should have asked him, do you want to remain anonymous?
No, Roger doesn't. Roger never remains anonymous.
Well,
Roger that barbecue.
Well,
No.
there goes your pulled pork.
Well,
And Roger, I saw that earlier. Yes, hashtag Campos is fast.
he is. So, again, guys, thanks for listening. We appreciate every one of you, all of our sponsors, and stick around next Thursday night. Remember, we moved the show.